I never thought a stretch of concrete could mean anything more than just concrete. But after my wife passed away at 45, that slab became the only thing that kept my daughter from falling apart. Her name is Lily, 13 years old. Bright, loud, sharp-tongued, at least she used to be. After the stroke took her mom, she didn't speak for almost a month. The house was so quiet I could hear the refrigerator buzz and my own heartbeat echo in the hallways. I'm not the sentimental type. 21 years as a firefighter will burn that right out of you. But watching your kid fold in on herself like that, there's no training for it. Back when her mom was alive, they used to shoot hoops in the driveway. Nothing serious. A crooked plastic hoop I'd screwed into the siding, leaning like it had had one too many winters. But it was theirs. Their laughter used to drift through the window while I grilled burgers. And after she died, that sound was gone. One day, maybe 2 months after the funeral, I found myself pacing the back of our property in Red Cedar Ridge, a neighborhood on the edge of Willow Creek, Texas, way out where the yards blur into brush line. I started marking a rectangle in the dirt with string and chalk. The neighbors probably thought I was building a shed. I didn't correct them. I was building something else, a half-court. Something for Lily. Something for us. It took a rented compactor, 3 days of mixing concrete until my shoulders screamed, and a backboard I ordered online that cost way more than I should have spent. But I didn't care. On the night I tightened the last bolt, Lily stepped onto the fresh court without saying anything. She picked up the ball, missed the first shot, then the second, but the third one swished clean. And just for a moment, her lips tugged into the smallest smile. That night, for the first time since the funeral, I actually slept. For weeks we used that court every day. Layups, free throws, goofy games she made up. She even brought friends over. Slowly, like sunlight returning after a storm, she talked again. The court wasn't just a court. It was a lifeline. So yeah, I wasn't thinking about HOA rules. I paid my dues, kept to myself, waved when people waved. I figured they'd do the same. I didn't factor in Margaret. Every neighborhood has one. Someone who treats the HOA like a personal throne. In Red Cedar Ridge, that was Margaret Cole, vice president of the association, queen of the golf cart brigade. She started cruising past our fence more often, sunglasses on, lips tight like she was smelling something sour. One day she called out, "Big project back there?" I said, "Just giving the kids some space." She smiled the way a rattlesnake smiles, if rattlesnakes could smile. "Just make sure it's within code," she chirped. I regretted answering. Weeks passed. Things felt normal. Then one Thursday, I came home to a bright orange envelope slapped onto my door like a warning label on poison. Notice of violation, unauthorized construction on HOA common property. Fine, $1,000. Due in 14 days. My hands shook, not because I was scared, but because I was angry enough to snap the railing in half. Common property? Since when? The court was in my yard, behind my fence, on land I'd mowed for years. That night, I spread every property paper I had on the kitchen table like a detective in a crime show. The old plat map, the survey from when we bought the house, it all pointed to the court being on my land. But the lines were fuzzy. The trees in the back made the borders weird. And the HOA, I knew, had some digital map they used internally. And that uncertainty, that got in my head. What if I'd messed up? Lily came downstairs and asked, "Are they going to make us take it down?" I wanted to lie. Instead, I told her, "I'm going to find out." The next morning, I went to Willow County Hall. Found a guy named Ralph. Looked like he'd been archived with the documents, who pulled out everything from the 90s onward. And there it was. A stamped, certified parcel map from 1999 that extended my boundary 10 extra feet past where I thought it was. 10 feet that perfectly covered the entire basketball court. The HOA map? Not only wrong, it hadn't been filed with the county. Someone in the early 2000s adjusted their internal map and never recorded it legally, meaning the official boundary was mine, and Margaret had no authority beyond it. I stared at that map like it was a sword I'd just pulled from a stone. I went home. Margaret was parked across the street, whispering to neighbors like a gossiping politician. I didn't even look at her when I said, "You'll want to be at tomorrow's HOA meeting." Her smile twitched. I didn't sleep that night. I built a binder thicker than a Bible, highlighted bylaws, taped enlarged maps, printed the county seal big enough to be seen from space. And I brought backup, my old friend Tom, a retired city planner who lived 2 blocks over. When the next night came, The clubhouse was packed, way more than the usual 10 retirees who came for free cookies. Margaret sat up front with her lacquered hair and matching navy blazer. She spoke first, all sugar and threat. Then it was my turn. I laid out the map. This, I said, is the official county parcel line. My court is fully within my land. Your map, I slid her copy next to it, was never filed and is legally meaningless. Gasps. Actual gasps. She sputtered something about visual harmony and community aesthetic, but Tom cut in with one sentence that silenced her like a slap. You have no jurisdiction over this property. Pursuing enforcement would violate state statute. The board voted. Unanimous. Violation dismissed. Fine erased. Margaret didn't raise her hand. Didn't have to. She'd already lost. But she wasn't done. The week after, neighbors stopped waving. I heard whispers. He embarrassed the board. He's dramatic. He used his kid to win sympathy. Then came petty violations. My trash can out at 9:46 a.m. Warning. A cactus I'd had for 5 years. Violation. Mailbox allegedly too tall. Warning. It was psychological warfare disguised as paperwork. I told Lily not to worry, but at night I stared out at the court wondering how far Margaret would go. At the next meeting, she delivered a speech about civility and respecting leadership. Then demanded I apologize publicly if I wanted to speak again at future meetings. I stood up, slow and steady. I don't apologize, I said, for protecting my daughter or correcting a mistake your board made. Someone clapped. Then another. A retired teacher stood and said, I was on the committee when the maps were drawn. That boundary error. Yeah, we messed it up. Margaret's face went from red to sheet white. Conversations broke out. The room turned, and she couldn't stop it. After that meeting, silence from her end, which scared me more than the noise. So I kept digging, and I found something worse. An annexation proposal from 2008, never filed, never official, suggesting the HOA informally incorporate several feet of land along the outer perimeter, including mine. 3 other houses had been hit with bogus violations over the years, forced to tear down sheds, pay fines, remove structures. All courtesy of Margaret. I met one of them, an elderly veteran named Frank. He told me she made him dismantle a gazebo he'd built for his dying wife. I drove home that night shaking with anger. I wrote a letter, lines that matter, and quietly dropped 50 copies around the neighborhood. Everything changed in 24 hours. People came to my door with their own stories, their own scars left by Margaret's bureaucracy. A petition formed, then exploded. 60% of the neighborhood signed to recall her. She lashed out, of course. Letters from her attorney. A self-pity article in the newsletter painting herself as a victim. Emails calling me manipulative. Then she filed a zoning complaint claiming my court caused light pollution. The inspector laughed and cleared me in 10 minutes. And then, one night, she knocked on my door. Not the fiery Margaret. Not the queen of the HOA cavalry. Just a tired woman holding an envelope. I shouldn't have pushed you, she said quietly. I didn't know how to stop. She left the envelope on the porch. Inside was a single sentence. I resign. She moved out 2 weeks later. Sold her house. Vanished. But the story didn't end there. The neighborhood changed. People painted doors bright colors. Kids played in the street again. Someone built a little free library. The board issued a public apology, signed by every member, acknowledging the harm caused under Margaret's leadership. I cried when I read it. Lily started coaching basketball at the middle school. She said she wanted to give kids what the court had given her. One afternoon she told me, "You weren't fighting for the court, Dad. You were fighting for Mom too." And she was right. I hadn't been able to save my wife. But I could save this space, this sanctuary, for our daughter. A few weeks later, as Lily dribbled under the golden light of sunset, I walked the court, touched the painted lines, felt the peace settle in my chest. We'd won, not out of vengeance, but out of survival, out of love, out of knowing where the lines truly were. And in the end, that's what this whole battle was about, lines. The ones on the map, and the ones inside us that say, this is mine. This is worth protecting. So now I want to know, what do you think? Was I right to push back this hard? Or should homeowners follow the rules no matter what? Have you ever dealt with someone who abused their tiny bit of power? Drop your thoughts in the comments. This one's going to start a fight.